After weeks of waiting, we finally hit the road. First stop was the airport, and Diana's energy here says it all. This was her first time ever taking off in a plane, and you can definitely feel it. As soon as we landed here on the tarmac in Veracruz, we realized we really had not gone too far in terms of the climate. Still flat, sticky, and humid. Pretty much the same thing as Mérida. Not exactly the shift we were hoping for, but we were just getting started. Still is worth a small celebration, and we'd made it. The Bienvenidos a Veracruz sign here felt like it was the first real marker of the journey. So we were in motion, and that was enough, but for me this trip was about something specific, something I'd been dreaming about since before I moved to Mexico this past July. Xalapa is known as one of the top mushroom foraging hotspots in all of North America. The region's cloud forest climate, with its mix of high elevation, frequent fog, and year-round moisture, creates the perfect environment for a stunning diversity of fungi. And myself, coming from the Pacific Northwest, I'd always wanted to explore this place. It's one of the few regions that can really match Washington's forests in beauty and biodiversity. So to get there, we hopped on the ADO bus from Veracruz. It's about a 2-hour climb into the mountains where we gain about 4,000 feet in elevation. Veracruz is basically at sea level, but Xalapa sits at 1,460 meters, so about 4,800 feet. When we finally arrived in Xalapa, the change was instant. Temperature dropped, clouds hung low, air was damp and alive. We grabbed a quick bite of local food, still trying to soak it all in, but we already felt it. This was the reset that we needed. Our Airbnb was up a small flight of stairs, surrounded by plants that looked like they'd been there forever. The moment we stepped in, we knew we found something special. And the city around us really rose up in layers, rooftops stacked against steep hillsides, clouds up along the skyline. It was stunning and somehow familiar, even though we'd never been here before. The host mentioned there was a rooftop balcony, so of course we went up there, and when we got there, we just kind of stood still. Eso es una ciudad muy ocupada.
Muy poblada, ¿no? Mira los perritos.
Nos están viendo.
Sí.
Hey guys. Hey. Eso es muy chingón. Fresquito estás.
Sí, ya no puede estar así como Yucatán. Pero cuando lleguemos peor lo vamos a sentir, creo, Yucatán.
Vamos a estar muy... ¿Sí?
Sí.
Qué chida está la ciudad. Mira los carros que vienen desde allá.
¿Qué fue lo que hiciste? ¿Foto o video?
Eso fue video.
Ay, no dije nada. Hermoso. Bellísimo.
Ya me gusta un chingo. It was our first full morning in Xalapa. Slightly overcast, but bright and no rain. As we stepped outside, it felt like everything in the patio had come to life overnight. All of the hidden greens and obscure plants, suddenly vivid and present. Our Airbnb host came out to give us directions to Parque Alaya. We smiled and nodded, and in the moment we thought we understood, but let's just say it didn't quite stick. We started the day with a steep climb. At one point I looked at Diana and asked her if she was ready to do some exercise in Spanish. Lista para hacer ejercicio. We both laughed, already feeling it in our legs. As we climbed, we took in the rhythm of the neighborhood. There was tiered housing clinging to the hillsides. Big trees towered over the avenue, reminding us that we were still in a city, but one that was deeply woven with green. We paused to admire a hillside house that I liked. There are some properties here that are so well tucked away, but they also feel huge and wide open. You'd almost miss them, and they're hidden in plain sight. People pass by us walking their dogs and running errands. The streets here have a kind of steep intensity. Every direction either seems to pull you up or down. At a crossroads, we hesitated. The host directions seemed to blur in our heads, so we just went ahead and picked a path. Wrong turn, but it did lead to something better. I'm just about to find my first mushrooms of the trip. A bright little agaricus. Actually, a group of them. And what I later confirmed to be Agaricus campestris, the meadow mushroom. Edible and common, but these were a treasure to us. Tendría que hacer un poco de investigación, pero sé que es agaricus. Algunos son venenosos, algunos son comestibles. A little bit further on, we found one of my favorite plants, aloe vera, otherwise known in Mexico as sábila. This is not a mushroom, but a sign of how alive this place is. These are one of my favorite medicinal plants. I love to use them either topically and internally. They calm inflammation in the gut, and they're basically known as nature's lotion. So we circled back, retracing our steps to find the actual entrance to Parque Laya. We headed back to the three-way fork, and this time we were just going to go straight. And there it was, a simple gated opening. Then it was time to sign in, and behind it, a forest awaited us.
Número de personas 2. Asunto, paseo.
Almost immediately, we spotted some small polypores on a tree. These were too young to identify, but signs of fungal life were definitely everywhere. See? Then I came across a coral-like fungus, which is likely a Ramaria species. Possibly Ramaria butridis. Definitely have a broader group of mushrooms that have the nickname coral mushrooms. We walked deeper into the forest. More moss, ferns, damp logs, signs of life everywhere. Reminded me of Seattle in a way. We passed some way past prime chicken of the woods. At the time I didn't quite realize that's what they were, but later on I came to find out that they're likely Laetoporus cincinnatus, which is otherwise known as chicken of the woods. An awesome edible that tastes like chicken when you cook them up correctly. Now it was time to head down a long mossy staircase. Every step was slick and soaked. We knew if we're going down, we must have to come back up later. So we veered off the trail for a bit. Sometimes you gotta do that if you want to find mushrooms. This area was quiet, dense, and full of lots of plant life. To me, the mix between a tropical and a temperate climate was striking. But right here there were no mushrooms, and maybe that's because it was already October. Found a berry that I didn't recognize. It looked a lot like elderberry. It definitely did not taste like it. It was very bitter with no taste whatsoever almost. Species unknown. Next we spotted Sterium austria, false turkey tail, growing right next to the real one, Trametes versicolor, which is a classic fungal mashup. Trametes versicolor turkey tail is one of my favorite mushrooms to find and make tea out of. They boost your immune system. But you want to be careful. And right here there were some LBMs, little brown mushrooms. Unidentified, mysterious. The path steepened again and got even more soggy. Now it was time to dart back into the woods. Then I found a mushroom that I sort of recognized. Marasmius hematocephalus. The red cap almost glows and the gills are hypnotic. Caught a little clip of myself dancing slowly to some reggaeton playing on my speaker. Another cool find, a white bracket fungus. Unknown species, but beautiful. Diana and I had a quiet moment here, walking hand in hand. We passed a local on the trail and exchanged a simple hola. It was our first full morning in Xalapa. Slightly overcast. Here we found a local guy cutting up cocoa like it was nobody's business. Friendly as ever, he struck up conversation while slicing the coconut clean with a machete. This was on our way to our first real stop of the day, the Jardín Botánico, which we hadn't been able to enter the night before. He handed us coconut water and soft coconut meat, both refreshing and grounding. Just walking through the entrance of the garden, we were already surrounded by a stunning display of diverse plant life. So we began our trek around the Jardín. It was peaceful and full of beauty, a variety of native plants all carefully placed. But I wasn't sure how many mushrooms I would find here. Public gardens like this sometimes aim for more aesthetics than wild biodiversity. Still, we enjoyed our time here. We came across a little altar tucked in the middle of everything. It looked like a good spot to hang out and just take it in. There weren't any mushrooms here though. A river flowed slowly through the jungle landscape. The tall bamboo trees gave it almost an Asian feel. There was a lot of well-kept grass, which made me wonder if they used fungicides here. If they do, that could explain the lack of fungal life, although fungicides can affect other plant life too, and not just mushrooms. And as we came up on this plateau, we came across this white tree, and it was really majestic. It felt like the centerpiece of the whole garden. I believe it's a small leaf maple tree. The whole place was starting to feel more like a serene sanctuary than a wild forest. Then we crossed over into Parque Francisco Javier Clavijero, so it's just across the street. There were no mushrooms in the Jardín Botánico, so we were hoping to find something here. We began our climb up the steep road into the park. The terrain started to feel more natural and less manicured. Right away, we started to see signs of life. An unknown bright white polypore group was growing on a fallen log. A few red-orange mushrooms caught my eye on another log. I suspect these are in the Foliota family, possibly Foliota spumosa based on the color and the scaly texture on both the cap and the stem. As we kept walking, something shifted. The forest had this ancient presence to it. Quiet, steady, and deeply inviting. It was the kind of place that makes you slow down without trying. Further up the trail, I spotted a cup fungus, possibly a Cucaina species. It wasn't bioluminescent, but under the rainforest canopy, it gives off this soft glow. Time was slipping by as we followed the path deeper. There weren't mushrooms around every corner, but every so often something would appear. Like a delicate Pleurotus species we found growing on the side of this tree. These are oyster mushrooms, a classic in the world of edible fungi. Their presence here felt like a reward. Here we have Diana posing. There were workers here working hard at what they do. Not long after, we came across an unknown bolete. Already past its prime, but still interesting. Boletes are unique because they have pores instead of gills. The pores are where they shoot their spores from. Even in this state, there's something kind of noble about them. We weren't finding a ton in this part of the park, and it seemed like the rainy season might already be tapering off. You could feel it in the forest, less moisture, fewer new growths. But even without new finds, there's value in the silence. Taking it all in. At one point I just paused and danced to some reggae playing through the phone. It's essential to take time out and let the music move you. Then, just when we thought we'd seen it all, we spotted a potentially undiscovered mushroom, a bright, fiery red-orange, glowing from fallen log. I still don't know what it was. The drizzle started falling softly now, almost like a signal that the day was winding down. The moisture made the leaves glisten and brought out the smell of the soil. We stopped to admire a wild morning glory flower, known locally as Campanilla Azul. It had that perfect spiral you only find in the wild. Eventually we made our way to a lookout point, a clearing that overlooked Cofre de Perote, the big nearby volcano. Clouds had rolled in, so we couldn't see the summit, but the view was still something special. I talked about it on camera a little bit, just reflecting on the land, the scale of it, and how lucky we were to experience it. It was time to start heading back the way we came. The drizzle was picking up, and we were getting hungry. We didn't see too much on the way down. Just had a lot of time to reflect on the day, the search, and the beauty of this place. This would be our last day of foraging. Tomorrow, we'll be flying back to Mérida. I left with the feeling that this place deserves more time. I'd love to come back next year, deeper into mushroom season, and see what else the forest has to offer. So we got on our bus for the long journey home, tired but full from the trip. And then it was on to the plane. And as we boarded our plane to take off, I kept thinking, this isn't goodbye to Xalapa, just a see you later. Next time we'll make it right, in the thick of the rainy season, and see this region in its full expression.